There was a time when everything felt untouched by complication, like the air just after rain, clean, still, full of possibility. My home was a quiet rhythm of comfort. Mornings came with the clink of his mug against mine, that sleepy smile he'd wear before the world fully woke. My sister would call sometimes before breakfast, her voice chirping through the speaker like a melody I had memorized. We were close in that way where silence was allowed, where childhood secrets still lived like treasures in the folds of our conversations. He liked her. Of course he did. Everyone did. She had that rare blend of energy and calm, a magnetism, that filled rooms. And to me, that made perfect sense. My husband and my sister, both fixtures in the architecture of my joy. Sundays were sacred, the kind where we'd cook together, all of us. She'd dance barefoot in my kitchen, humming some half-remembered tune from the 90s, while he stirred sauce like he was crafting art. I'd sit at the counter, sipping wine, watching them laugh, tease, toss kitchen towels at each other. It never occurred to me to question the warmth. I never imagined I'd need to. That kitchen felt like a photograph, one I never thought would fade. My sister had her own life, a little chaotic, always somewhere between staying and leaving. And I, ever the steady one, became her grounding place. She'd vent to me, cry, with me, crash on our couch when she needed a break from the world. He never minded. He said we were lucky to have family like that. I agreed. It made sense. It all made sense. And when my husband would wrap an arm around me at night, I believed in that touch. I believed in his breath against the nape of my neck, the subtle weight of his love pressing against my back. I didn't realize I was memorizing those moments for a time when they'd become unrecognizable. I didn't know I'd revisit them like someone studying old ruins, wondering how something so strong could crumble without warning. It's strange, the way you trust your own world. You don't question the familiar. You don't interrogate. A smile. You don't decode laughter. You just live inside it, letting it hold you, assuming it will always be safe. She'd steal my sweaters. He'd tease her about it. I'd roll my eyes, shake my head, and pour another glass of wine. I remember one night, she was sitting on our couch, legs tucked under her, scrolling on her phone while he flipped channels, beside her. I stood in the doorway for a second longer than usual, just watching. There was nothing strange, nothing loud, just a kind of ease, a shared language. And why wouldn't there be? They knew each other through me. That kind of closeness, when it's good, it feels like magic. It wraps around your life like a soft blanket, convincing you that you've figured it out, that you've found your people. You don't see shadows. In a well-lit room, you don't expect the ground to open up beneath your feet when the floor has always felt so solid. We were a trio in some ways. Not always, not every day, but often enough that I began to thread them into the same strand of memory. Family trips, old inside jokes, the way she'd roll her eyes when he made bad puns. She used to call him brother-in-law with mock formality, and he'd bow like a knight in response. I loved that. I loved them, not just separately, but together, the way they fit into my life, like perfectly shaped puzzle pieces. And so I didn't notice the storm clouds when they started to form. I was too busy enjoying the sun. It didn't happen all at once. It was never loud, never explosive. It started in ways so small I almost didn't notice. A hesitation before answering a question. A glance held a second too long between them. That didn't include me. I would catch it, then immediately brush it off. I told myself not to be paranoid. They were close. We were all close. That was normal. There were little changes in him. At first, it was just a difference in how he touched me. Softer, but less frequent. As if he was going through the motions with a script he only half remembered. He started forgetting small things. How I took my tea, which brand of lotion I used. Once, I mentioned a story from our vacation, and he looked blank for a second, like it didn't matter anymore, like I didn't matter in the same way. She visited more often, stayed longer. Sometimes, she would sit on the kitchen counter while I cooked, chatting like always, but now her eyes would flit to the door, waiting. She'd laugh at his jokes a little too hard. I began to notice the alignment of their energies, subtle but present, like two instruments playing the same note under my voice. I remember one night I came home early from work. She was already there, curled up on the couch. He came out of the bedroom, a towel slung around his shoulders, hair damp. I smiled. They looked startled. She covered it quickly with a joke. He went to make tea. But I felt it. The shift. A quiet alarm in my gut I couldn't silence. There were excuses. Innocent ones. Too many. Too easily given. She left a book behind once, one I had never seen her read. It had a receipt folded inside from a store I knew he had been to recently. Another time, she referenced a show they both apparently watched, but I hadn't heard them talk about it before. I began to wonder how many conversations happened without me in the room. I started checking things I never checked before. Notebooks, phone records, nothing that screamed guilt, just the absence of clarity. A fog that thickened the harder I tried to see. I asked questions, but softly, indirectly. He was always careful. She was even more so. And yet, there was tension in my chest I couldn't ignore. Nights became colder. His touch felt performative. Her presence felt too effortless, too practiced. I began to dread their comfort around each other. The ease that once made me feel safe now made me feel small. Like I was watching something from the outside, a stage built in my home that I didn't belong to anymore. I told myself it was stress, that I was overthinking, that love sometimes wears new faces. But deep down, in that quiet place inside a person that always knows, I had already begun to grieve. I just didn't have the name for it yet. It was a Tuesday. Plain, forgettable. The kind of day where nothing is supposed to happen. I was cleaning out drawers in the hallway, not searching, just organizing. There was a box tucked underneath. Old scarves. I opened it without thinking. Inside was a card. A simple handwritten note. The handwriting wasn't mine. The words were familiar in tone but meant for someone else. The message was short, intimate, careful. It ended with her nickname, the one only family used. My heart didn't race. It dropped, slowly, like something falling through water. I sat on the floor with the card in my lap for minutes, maybe longer. Everything in the room seemed too still. I remember noticing the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, the sound of the clock ticking, louder than it had ever been. There wasn't anger, not yet. Just disbelief wrapped in a strange clarity, like someone pulling a curtain back and letting the light pour in, whether you wanted it or not. I didn't cry. Not then. I couldn't. My body went cold, like it knew something my mind hadn't caught up to. Later that night, he came home. He kissed my forehead like always, sat across from me at dinner, talked about his day. I watched his mouth move, trying to see if I could catch a crack in the surface. But he was composed. Perfectly ordinary. I couldn't stop thinking about the note, about her handwriting, about the way their lives had slipped into each other without my permission. I didn't say anything, not right away. Instead, I moved through the days like I was underwater. Everything sounded muffled, every movement slow. She texted the next morning. A meme, something funny. I stared at the screen and wondered if she laughed when she sent it, wondered how she could laugh. Sleep became a stranger. I would lie next to him, every inch of space between us feeling like a mile. I didn't ask for the truth. I let it settle into me instead, like dust on furniture left untouched too long. The kind of truth that doesn't need to be spoken to. Be known. Eventually, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself for a long time. I tried to find the woman I was before. The one who trusted. The one who believed. She wasn't gone. Just bruised. Quiet. Changed. I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I simply began to let go. Let go of the image I had held. Of the safety I thought was mine. There is a silence that follows betrayal, a kind that's deeper than pain. It's the silence of being rewritten, of realizing your life wasn't what you thought and choosing somehow to keep living anyway.